Okay. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, thank you very much. So welcome everybody. Thanks for joining. So I'm sure you saw the email on the agenda today. We are going to cover two modules which are going to go out of our to production very soon. One is the business assessments, and second is patching. But this time patching done right, the right way. I'm sure we have all the RMMs, we have a lot of solutions in the market, but the whole idea was when our CTO kind of wanted to redesign this whole patching, he said, let's do patching the right way. So this is what we want to go over today. And with that, so today I'll just go over a brief overview of what each of these module does and a quick demo on how it works. So the first thing is with respect to the business assessments. So I'm sure you can read my screen that every MSP sells vulnerability management. You're all probably running the same scans, finding the same CVs, but why would a client pick you? Uh, because I think this is something which we had a rich conversation. It's the one who you showed up and asked about the business, not about the network. I also want to kind of state that this business assessment is just not a form where you can email, but a conversation with your client. Just to give a context, many of you have sat in QBRs and realized that you actually don't know what the client business does to make money. So in terms of, you know, their network, you know their ticket history, but do you know what happens to their revenue if their billing system goes down? Do you know who in their organization is allowed to accept the risk, whether the decision is written down anywhere? So many of us in the MSP industry has been trained to think in terms of endpoints, patches, or scan results. But the client sitting across is probably thinking about the regulators, the payroll, and probably how they can survive a tough week. So this assessment is basically to bridge that gap. This assessment is just about, it's not a questionnaire you email the client. It is a conversation guide with your client. And this is what we want to kind of navigate in the next few minutes, which I'll show you on the screen. So I would say I'll just share my screen and I'll show you how this module looks. So, yeah, okay. So it currently we are going to kind of roll it out inside the compliance module, which is the business assessment module. And you will see something called earn the business and keep the business. That's the first two modules which you want to kind of roll out. Now, each of this modules will have a certain set of questions, which is what you want to have a conversation with the client. And I'll go over these sections to probably just give an overview what we are expecting. And just to let you know, Ryan and Brian, who's our CISO, basically has kind of done a lot of deep dive on this. So if you think any of these assessments or any of the questions does not make sense or you need any feedback, please feel free to reach out to them or on the support ticket. So we'll be happy to take feedback. So let me just first go over it's just not the 10 sections, it's about having a conversation, right? That's what I wanted to kind of tell you. Organization profile. So when you talk to the client, you're going to kind of set the baseline, the revenue, the size, the industry, where they're headed the next 12 months. If they are planning an acquisition or expanding to new locations, that changes everything about the risk. So you need to know about this before you talk about even a single vulnerability. So that's the first section. The second section is about the regulatory and compliance, right? Are they HIPAA, PCI? Have they been audited? Did they clear it? Is there something you want to kind of ask them? Is there any concerns around their compliance, or if it's mandatory in their contracts? And this is where you can make a recommendation as to what can be done and what cannot be done with this platform. The third section is around the security and the incident history, right? Very, very critical. So have they been hit by ransomware? Did they kind of lose 100K on an incident last year because they did say a no to your recommendation? And then that's a conversation you need to have with your client, right? So this is, again, a conversation to start with where you kind of ask them to, and you fill these details. Section 4 is around the critical business activity and revenue dependency. So what actually makes the money? It's probably not their servers, right? There are business activities. Which ones generate revenue, which does not? So once you have all this, you can have a vulnerability map to a business outcome. So that's again something which you can have a conversation around. None of these sections are mandatory, but this is to help you have a conversation. The section 5 is around the critical business activities and also which are the mission critical systems. So, for example, how long can they be down before it hurts? An hour, a day? So, that's when the remediation recommendations can come in, and that can be the talking point again. So in section 6, which systems are, what kind of systems sit? Are there PII records in these systems? If they go through a downtime, are you going to have a loss of $25K or $5,000? What is it going to happen? So this is again downtime tolerance and financial impact of this. And again, to deal with your financial data or PII data, all those conversations can come in here. Next is the risk tolerance and acceptance. So who approves the risk in their organization, right? Is there a formal way to do it? Have they formally accepted any risk? And is it documented? So this protects you and them, right? If something goes wrong and nothing was documented, everybody is going to lose. And that's something which you want to kind of guide the clients on. The next one is, of course, what is the MSP operational context and the value realization? Again, how many hours are we spending on them? Like how many hours have you had previously declined remediation actions? So this is again, it's more of an honest conversation you want to have with the client and fill in as and when the time progresses. So, and then the last section is all about the executive priorities and decision support. What keeps the leadership up at night? What are the things which they are the top three fears which they are going to kind of want your help on? And this is a kind of a questionnaire which you can build on, and of course you can add your notes and comments around it. So once you have these details, this is it might seem a simple assessment, but at the same time, this is a talking point to your client, and then you can go from there on how to kind of nurture their business and then have these conversations every quarter. So for example, tomorrow I'm going to have in Q2, probably some of these questions are impertinent. We are going to kind of work with you to ensure these assessments are going to kind of improve over a period of time. So once that's done, we also have we are going to kind of have a global view for you to see as to how what were the responses for each of these assessments and whether kind of these assessments made sense, what were the responses, and then I just click one of them so you can actually see what the responses were, and of course you can go and consolidate the data once you have got enough responses from your clients. So this is the first a feature we want to kind of release. Again, a lot of input has come from the CISO and Ryan Seymour from our education team. So any feedback, we're happy to take up as we roll out this to production. So it might seem 10 sections, probably 10 minutes or 20 minutes, but these are business questions. And when you ask the business owner these questions, something shifts. They don't just see you as an IT person, they start seeing you as something who actually gets what's at stake, right? So that's the kind of end goal we want to get to. Okay, with this, I will take up questions. I'll come back to this, but the second module probably is also of great interest to all of you, is the patching. So any standard patching done today is deploy and hope. You push patches to all machines. On a Monday morning, probably something broke, and then you have a couple of people around kind of firefighting an incident. So when the CTO kind of wanted to redesign this whole patching module, we wanted to add a test before deploy layer. We want to kind of use, going forward, use a lot of AI automation for testing these patches and all that stuff which is in place. So we have kind of redesigned the whole patching module, again, as part of the standards queue right now. So I'll just go over as to how this is done. But before that, I want to use certain terminologies which is probably not there in the current system. Patch policy. Patch policy is the rule that ties to everything together. A policy that defines what gets patched, not gets patched. I'm going to use the term vulnerability categories. So which means the filters, whether around the severity, whether it's a CISA vulnerability, whether it's a critical vulnerability, high or normal. App groups. So today our Connect Secure patching has close to 500 plus supported apps. So we are going to define, app groups, the P1 app group, P2, P3, P4. Of course, you can add your own custom app group. So P1 is priority one app groups, which has to be tested and rolled out very quickly, and which needs to have a correct infrastructure is something we want to define with the app groups. And then you can also define probably a low priority. You don't want to test it and you want to just roll it out. That is also possible. So we are defining these app groups, and you can also create custom app groups as to how you want to, based on the attack surface, you can define as to where you want to put these softwares. The third thing we'll be using is pilot machines. So the critical thing is, yeah, we have all these things in place, right? Where the main thing is you need to test these patches. So we are going to, for each of these companies, we're going to identify what are the assets in your network. So you can choose a subset of assets where all the software or one or two machines where all the software is installed, and you can test the applications once it's upgraded. So you have Chrome, Firefox, say two machines have Chrome, Firefox, the third machine doesn't have, you kind of either can make it mandatory to add those as part of pilot, or you can kind of ignore it and then you can proceed with that. But again, that's a risk which you're taking. Validation, yeah, the patch got applied, the patch installed successfully, but tomorrow you need to kind of launch Zoom, you have to launch Chrome and make sure those things work. You need to do the validations. So that's something which we are going to have manual testing happening or automated testing happening. So as and when we progress, more and more scripts come in, we can put more automated testing. Approvers, something which is part of any process, change management. So who's going to sign off when the pilot clears? If auto approve is on, the patches will deploy automatically after the review window, because you have CISA vulnerabilities which have to go out very quickly. And in case you want to stop the rollout because of any reason, you have an approver to kind of decline that and add the required evidence. Last but not the least, integration. This is going to integrate with the PSA system. So every stage you need to create a ticket, right? When the patch is rolled, when the patch has come in, when the patch is tested, if the pilot machine testing has failed. So each of these stages will now be integrated with the ticket in PSA as an event, and then you can kind of work through that. So these are the 5, 6 terms which we'll be using with this whole new patch management. With that, I'll just go through a quick overview as to how what I spoke about, it works, right? So here we have the patch management, a setup wizard. Definitely the setup wizard is going to have EULA, where you will have to kind of read through what are the risks around this and then go from there. The first step is part of the patch deployment is going to be policy to settings. So you define a policy. So here, if you see, there are 4 categories which you have put in right now: CISA, critical, high EPSS, and normal patching. On the right side, you kind of see as to what is the review period. So what you're saying here is there's going to be auto deployment if there's no authorization done after X hours, right? Now, once that is done, you also have approvers. So for example, you have approvers who need to be added as part of the pilot process. That will also be done here. Next is the PSA integration. We'll have notifications like email and stuff like that, but also we are going to have something called the PSA, whatever integration is already set up. You can choose as to what are the rules and also what events. So for example, we have some default events like pilot failed, pilot passed, review timer, manual approval, rollout started to production. So each of these stages are part of this. And once everything is done, the cycle is completed successfully, the ticket closes. So we want to kind of choose those events and then go from there. Once this is done, the next thing is the app groups. So this is what I was telling about, right? We have defined close to 500 plus app groups. So some are in P1, some are in P2, so some are in P3. So here, for example, the first P1 app group I put for the Firefox and PuTTY, and then you have Nginx. So probably you want to add Splunk in part of the P1, you can add that. Now you want to move Splunk into P2, you can do it, right? And then you have P2 app group, which is again, you can decide whether you want to keep this as a P2 app group or you don't want it as a P2 app group, and also decide as to how you want to test these apps. whether it's a manual testing, automated, or no testing required. So this is what you can define here. And then you can also define you can also define what is your custom app group. And then you can also move them here, right? So for example, I can move Mozilla onto this one. I'll just, yeah. So I can move this here and decide as to where I have to keep this app group and decide as to what I can test. The next step is, this is once you have defined the app groups, this now you're setting up the infrastructure, how to test it. So here you have kind of, I have whatever assets are there in this company, they are going to, you can choose which machines they want to kind of have pilot on. So this company had close to 3 machines. So if you see here, basically desktop SVP has all the two apps which I want to test installed. So it's going to say that 2 applications are installed and there's nothing left to be untested. Now, if you go here into P2, there is a bunch of applications which are not installed on this machine. So it's going to say your coverage is going to be probably just one is installed and rest of the 89 applications are not installed. So either add more machines, or you basically kind of skip the step, right? So we want to ensure the pilot machines have the software you have to install. So once this is done, you also get to see how many are covered, what is the gap, and what are the app groups covered. So close to, you want to ensure this gap is very less, otherwise you're risk you're taking. So the idea is you set the policy, you define your what are the softwares you want to kind of test against a P1, P2, P3 group. You choose the machines where you kind of go through how to test it. And then the next step is once you do this, you come into the step of the patch cycle, the policy saves, and then the patch cycles triggers. So here, once the patch, for example, Firefox, there's a CISA vulnerability it rolled out. Now we can kind of see as to what happened. So for example, here the version upgraded well, right, from 146 to 146.01. Once you do that, you have chosen manual testing. At this point, the technician can go and add note saying that he tested the Mozilla launch against screenshot. So once I do that, I can then approve the rollout. And once the rollout is approved, then the deployment is going to happen as much as it is. So here the idea is to give evidence-based testing and make sure the technician is uploading all the information here. If he decides not to, if he is not active enough to approve this process, it will auto roll out within the window which is set in the patch policy. So once this is part of the pilot testing, and then the deployment happens. So what happens if the deployment fails and the rollback has to be triggered? What we are given right now is a way to kind of roll back 3 versions, right? So for example, you want to kind of roll back this Firefox, which ended up with a bigger issue. So you want to roll back. So here we are choosing 3 versions down, and you can choose an approver for the rollback and then send a mail out. So this sends a mail out, and then once it's approved, the rollback will start triggering. So this is the whole life cycle of this patch. Apart from that, we are given something called the patch analytics, where you can see how many machines were patched by app group, how many CISA was, how much of the compliance percentage was there. So of course, this is reports, which is going to kind of change based on the requirements. But high level, we are going to give analytics over this whole patch cycle. So yeah, I think this is what I wanted to cover today. And just to let you know, everything is defined as a patch policy, app group manager, pilot settings, pilot review. This is for every pilot. We'll go through a review status. You can see what is happening. Also, we'll also add like the time remaining to deploy, right? So that you can act quickly on this. So all this will come in this page. So this is a one-stop shop for ensuring your pilot testing is done properly, and then the rollout is done. So with that, I think this is what I wanted to cover today, just to give you an overall overview of how this works. Again, so you have a EULA acceptance. We define the patch policies. We select the application groups, choose the testing mode, manual, automated, or AI testing. Once the patch wizard setup is complete, the execution is happening at the desired time. Once a vulnerability comes in, then you have the validation phase. Then you decide whether you want to proceed with the rollout based on the test results or you want to revoke it. And of course, the PSA integration will be part of every at part of every time, and then you have the final rollout. So this is the ideal, where we want to get to, kind of make sure whatever patches are deployed are perfectly tested and kind of have the evidence to ensure that there's no breaks for you and production, and you all have a, kind of a peaceful day ahead. So the idea is patch with confidence and not just hope, right? So that's the idea of this whole new patch management. With that, I'll probably unshare my screen and happy to take questions.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So quickly over to the questions. I think a few were already answered by Barsha and others, but yeah, you want to quickly.
Yeah, I think one of the question is the business assessment. Will it be part of premium module?
No, I think no, this will be part of standard, Mark.
Yeah, it's standard.
Standard, yes.
And I know my boss is going to ask what's the estimated time for this release because he's going to ask me.
Ken, I am from the engineering side, I would say April mid, but of course, there's a documentation and stuff like that which you want to kind of do. Ideally, for your boss, you please till April end.
April, okay. Thank you.
Oh. Yeah, so Tim, that's why we show this for the feedback. Probably we don't catch this, so I'll take this. I'll take this. I don't think we have kind of thought through this, Tim. We'll take this feedback.
And I have in the patching I've been running currently, I find that like most mainstream softwares like Firefox, Chrome, those update no problem, but some of the smaller ones like PuTTY, TeamViewer or whatever, they don't seem to always update. On
Okay.
I have a test machine I've been testing it on, so but we got a whole new patch thing coming up in a couple weeks, so maybe that'll fix that.
No, I wouldn't wait till that. Please, if you have a ticket, please send it across because it should happen, right? There's no reason why
All right.
it should not happen right now.
I'll make a ticket when we get off. I don't have one right now. I've also noticed, and how long does it take to actually update Connect Secure the portal? Because I have a couple test machines and I go look at the machines and I can see that they updated, but Connect Secure hasn't reported that they've updated yet.
Oh,
Or I guess I'll put that in a ticket as well.
yeah. Sometimes they might
Okay.
require a reboot, but again, probably we'll have to see case by case. If you can probably just send across 2 examples, we'll be able to figure it out.
Okay. I'll do that today. Thank you.
Basha, are there any questions which we have not answered?
Yeah, I think Andrew had a question I was interested in too. He asked if it'll be able to handle the OS feature updates in the chat. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, this includes both OS and application patching.
Okay, thank you.
I tested OS patching. That's working. I even got the warning on the machine that popped up and said reboot now. So that definitely works.
Yeah, and Ken, please send across the ticket. We'll look at it because the current patching also should work as expected. So,
Yes, ma'am. I'll get you a ticket today. Thank you.
okay. Ryan, do you have any inputs or questions before we close? Because you probably did the maximum work around the business assessment.
No, it was nicely presented today, Vidya. So I think you did a nice job explaining some of the why behind the business assessment feature. albeit I think patch management stole the show today. I think everybody's excited to get better patching. I think the industry's just always looking for a better leg up on that. So excited to see that rollout. And then on the business assessment side, again, any organizations that have feedback about it, once you've got your eyes in it, please share the feedback with us. It's all about getting everybody here better business context about your customers so that you can translate these technical findings to their business risk. And in order to do that, we need to understand a little bit more about the business as opposed to the network side. So it's really just about trying to help bridge that gap. So we're excited to see how that impacts you. We've did some really cool use case studies with some partners out there. Some of you are even on this call that talked to me about that. So thank you guys for your input, but we'll continue to get, the voice of you guys. So once you see that, please give us feedback, and we want to make that as valuable as possible to help drive better conversations with your partners, right? That's what it's about. And staying away from these long list of CVEs and confusing technical findings that, we all have a hard time translating ourselves. So nicely done, Vidya. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and Andrew probably ended it well. Patching is hard. Yeah, it is hard. So hopefully we'll make it easy for you. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it as
Thank,
always. Look forward to the next call. Thank you. Bye-bye.
thank you.